we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. So we know each other a little bit.
A little bit.
So this'll be good, and I think everybody will really appreciate your straightforward approach to things, and we'll just jump right into it. And it was important. It kind of dawned on me at the beginning of the day when someone came up to you and said, "Welcome to Dallas.
Yes.
Thank you for investing in our community." I've said that to you, I think, every time we've met. And we really mean that. Welcome to Dallas. Thank you and your family for wanting to be in the Dallas area. And start by telling us what it's like. You do business around the world. You come to the Dallas community, same as other communities, different? How so? How's that hit you?
So a couple of things. First off, I'd just like to thank T-Rec for having me here. It's actually a great honor to be in front of all of you. I also want to thank you. It's a great honor to speak with you and to actually have you interview me and have this fireside chat. You're an iconic person in real estate, and to have the ability to sit here with you and talk is a great honor. So I just want you to know I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed all of our talks, and this will be another one.
Thank you. You know, in terms of doing business around the world, first off, I would say that being in the destination resort business and being a large-scale developer requires a partnership with the government, just because of the scale of what we develop and the infrastructure we require and all the other businesses we impact. So typically in every market we're in, we're the largest trade partner with small and medium enterprise. So we're a ground-up real estate developer, and we're an operator. We don't buy other people's buildings, and we don't operate other people's buildings. So what we control is our own. And so we need to develop relationships with people that can help fulfill the demands of our customers. And so we really get to know people very well in the communities in which we operate. And we do that through charitable means, we do that by community outreach. And when you think about the number of people that we employ because of the scale of our buildings, we are part of the community. And so I feel like we do have a good sense of the environment in which we operate. And the one thing that struck me about Dallas is the positive energy and the entrepreneurial spirit of this community. It really surprised me, and how welcome everyone was. You know, it's really great to be able to show up somewhere and have everyone come up to you, welcome you, tell you how much they enjoy being in this community, where they're from, what they do, and just want to collaborate and do things. And that to me was the most eye-opening part about being involved in Dallas. I've spent time here over the years. And to be fair, our company has looked at Texas as a very desirable market to be in. We've always wanted to be part of the Texas business community, and specifically in Dallas. I don't have to tell you, but there's a lot of features about North Texas that are very unique. Not only the geography, but the infrastructure that's here, the workforce, and many other things that allow it to be very investable. And we've known this for a long time. But to come here and to have this reception was unbelievable. It also doesn't hurt that we bought a sports team. That also is not a bad part of it.
Yeah. So speaking of sports.
Yes.
So a month or so ago when I got conned into this job, no one had consulted me about a Mavericks trade. And so I thought we would go on and unpack that.
Sure.
Jump on that issue first. So what was going through your mind? How did you frame a decision of such magnitude like this?
So tough decisions are never easy. And part of leadership is looking at risk and looking at all the factors of a decision and being willing to act at that time and look to the long term and not only think about the short term or how it may be received immediately, but to think about the long-term benefits and what it may allow you to achieve if given all the right considerations. And I think for us, going into the trade deadline last year, we were not competitive. If you recall, we were not a playoff-bound team. And we were able to do some things to reconstruct the roster and enable the team to become very competitive. And after the trade deadline last year, we actually had the best record in basketball, which was a big accomplishment. And we got to the championship games, and we didn't win. And so we had to decide, how do we get better? What can we do to improve our team? And so we looked at our trajectory during the season and realized that we did not get better. But the teams that we competed against, some of which we beat, did get better. And ultimately, when you look at the Eastern Conference, after we were to get through the Western Conference, if we're so fortunate, you would have to beat some very formidable teams, including one that we lost to, which actually got better. So this was a decision about the future. If you look at our roster today, and who we have, we feel like we position ourselves to be incredibly competitive against the best teams in the NBA. And if you're a fan of basketball, I'll just throw that out there, you have Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and either Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively as your starting five. That's going to put fear into a lot of teams in the league if we can get going.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Right? And so the objective was, how do we create a roster for the future that allows us to be the most competitive team? I've said it all along. I don't know if you heard what I said when we actually bought the team from Mark, but we want to win championships. We want to be a winning franchise for the city of Dallas, and we want to be one of character, one of community involvement, and one where we sort of carry on the legacy of the Dallas Mavericks in the right way. You know, when you look at what Mark did, what Ross did. I mean, everyone who's been involved in the team has done great things for the city of Dallas. And we feel an obligation to continue that stewardship. So we were really looking to the future.
I really hope everybody in the room appreciates this part of the conversation, because in addition to hearing how Patrick and the leadership of the Mavericks processed this really tough decision, you're going to get an update on that, but you're also getting inside someone's head about making tough decisions. And that should really resonate with everybody in the room. And what you've already heard Patrick say is they asked themselves some really tough questions about how they were lining up for the future and their chances of being successful in the future. And then Patrick and I have talked about this before, but then they had to really listen to the answers to the tough questions and make decisions based upon that. And whether you like the Luka trade or you don't like the Luka trade, or you don't really know what you're talking about the Luka trade, you've got to really be able to appreciate what's going on in this, and you should hit hard on what this trade was not about.
So a few things. I think the important thing is Luka's a phenomenal player. He's a generational talent, and this was hard. It was emotional. It was emotional for my family. It was emotional for the people in Dallas. I heard from the fans. I respect their voices. I listened. We know that this wasn't easy. If we lost any of our fans' trust, it was hard, and I apologize. But I hope over time we can regain that trust through hard work, and that's our plan. And hopefully people will believe in the long run that what we did was the right decision. Time will tell. I will tell you, it was funny, I got people saying, "Are you moving the team to Vegas?" So this is a real estate group. So we sold the Venetian Las Vegas a couple of years ago. It was the largest single asset sale of all time. It was a $6.25 billion single asset trade. It was split into an OpCo-PropCo, and that was really a feature of the financing market at the time. So the most efficient form of financing was actually through Vici, which is a REIT that came out of the Caesars bankruptcy, if you're familiar with that. They're the largest landowner in Las Vegas, and they viewed the real estate portion of the Venetian as prime asset. And so they gave a very favorable financing package to Apollo, who bought the operating company. So combined total proceeds was $6.25 billion. So we exited Las Vegas. We have our corporate office there. We have some research facilities there. We have some operational facilities there that we use as a test bed for certain of our operations. But we have no customer-facing operations in Las Vegas today. Our goal is to invest in Dallas. Our goal is to invest in North Texas. That was our plan from the beginning, and that's actually how we came to the Mavericks. The reason why I'm here today is because I've known Mark Cuban for a long time. He's a dear family friend. I love Mark. And we started talking about the opportunity to invest in North Texas. And as we started that discussion, we began to talk about the value of destination resorts, how it brings a new industry to Texas, and we can talk about that in a bit. But the idea was, as part of this, we would build a multitude of amenities to drive both business and leisure tourism, and one of those amenities would be an arena. We actually operate for-profit arenas today. So I'm familiar with the business, and I started speaking with Mark about his view on arenas and what it could mean for North Texas. And that ultimately evolved into the discussion and then where we got to today. So, from my standpoint, our desire is to invest in North Texas, create an unbelievable home for the future of the Mavericks, and invest here in scale in our family's other business, which is destination resorts. The idea of moving to Vegas makes no sense to me. It's actually completely opposite of what we're attempting to do, as so evidenced by our actions. And so, no, the team is never moving to Las Vegas. We bought the Dallas Mavericks. It's going to stay the Dallas.
You might add, that's what we all wanted to hear. And you might add, you had years to look for a team for Vegas.
Oh yeah, we were looking at NBA teams for more than 12 years. Every NBA team that was for sale that you're aware of and you may have not been aware of, we looked at. but we had to find a city that made sense for us as a family. You know, operating a team is very much a family activity. I share this with my wife, our kids, our relatives, my mother-in-law. Basketball is something that brings people together. And so we enjoy it as a family. And so for us, you know, we want to be involved in the community here. This is a community asset. As I said before, we're stewards of the Mavericks, and it's a Dallas team, and we want to be here. That's why this happens. So the other thing that people say is, oh, you know, salary cap. I have to tell you something. It was not about the contract. The way the NBA works, there's a salary cap, and it's just a percentage of the cap. So if I could sign 3 max players, I'd do it. You know, it's just a percentage of risk allocation within the team's overall cost structure. So I don't know if anyone from the team hears me, but if you can find us 3 max players, let's go.
Tomorrow.
Let's go. So that's sort of the things that people have been sort of saying about what occurred over the last couple of weeks. But it's really just about improving the team for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty natural response from people who are just searching for something because the emotion. And you mentioned earlier another great nugget for the room. You had to take your emotion out of this trade. You're close with Luka. Your family knows Luka. And you did the right thing for long-term results. You took your emotion out for long-term results, and I think we can all appreciate that. And we certainly want the team to get better, and so this is really good for everybody. So what else would you want to say to just kind of put a peg in, and to anything else on the Luka deal? We've talked about Dirk a little bit earlier. Is another great.
Yeah, I think we did talk a little bit about Dirk. I think the one thing that I would say is Dirk was very important to the community because of his character, because of his work ethic, and because of his commitment to the city of Dallas. And there's a lot there that we can learn from and that I learn from and that I observe. And he's an iconic person, but he's still here with us. And he's going to contribute to the Dallas Mavericks. And he's someone that sort of embodies the spirit of the team. And it's great to have him around. And it's someone that I look to for an example for what sort of the optimum outcome could be. He won a championship, right? He's a champion.
Yeah, and I've heard you reference this kind of attitude and this kind of long-term decision-making in building a business and building success in your other businesses too. And so that cultural element of this, that's just kind of who you are and who the Sands is and who the Mavericks will be.
So, my father-in-law, Sheldon Adelson, may he rest in peace, he went at it every day. You know, he was employee number 1. He built a business. He had a vision for taking risk. He was not afraid to go in at large scale when he had a vision for something. And he worked every day up until the last day that he could work as hard as he possibly could to generate that success and to lead. And he led by example. And it was really, he's a remarkable person. He grew up in a time that I think many of us couldn't imagine. And I think that helped forge him in his mentality and his approach towards family, his character, his integrity, and how hard he worked to accomplish things that he believed in.
Unbelievable. So, and I hope everybody really heard what Patrick said about Sheldon Adelson. Especially this is a man who came from nothing and several times reinvested in the business, including the great financial crash. Also an unbelievably philanthropic man and family, which you are a part of, unique in the world in terms of size and scale. So you talked a little bit about the origin of your relationship with, you talked a little bit about your relationship with Mark Cuban. You talked a little bit about the origin of the basketball and finding all that and wanting to do all that. So because we have real estate people in this room, they have their own shot clock, and they're watching the arena deal. And it's a big real estate deal. That's why we got involved. That was Ross's view and thesis around owning the team. Do something great for the city, hopefully have a winning franchise, and there could be a real estate deal in there. So 2031, the deal expires with the city. Half the room already knows that. What are your thoughts?
So our goal is to invest in scale. So if you look at our company, you look at sort of Sheldon's approach, you look at what we do today, we think scale is an attribute. We think a multitude of amenities, diverse amenities, is an attribute that's very positive. And I think our goal is to create an asset that drives both leisure and business tourism. And I think this is a very important thing. So business tourism is a very esoteric area. And I'm sure, as everyone in this room knows, as a real estate developer, it's hard to make it work financially. The returns are sometimes very challenging. But through destination resorts, because of the other things that work on the leisure tourism side, and because of the scale, and to be fair, because of the casino gaming, you can create infrastructure assets for business tourism where the returns are viable. And then it creates an adjacency value for anyone who invests nearby, right? So, we sort of have this view, and I'm sure everyone in the room shares it, that adjacency value is like gravity. You can't escape it. And so if someone puts $12 billion into the ground, that the value will propagate around it and create other corollary follow-on investments that are also high value. And so for us, we're looking to find a location where we can create an entertainment district for the team at the state, let's call it current art of investment at the NBA, where it becomes an entertainment area, a destination, something that drives not only local tourism, but tourism from the surrounding region because it's a great experience. And then have a destination resort directly next to it that shares in that benefit, but is more of a business tourism asset that utilizes some of the existing infrastructure that's here. And I think it will work incredibly well in North Texas because of the infrastructure, because of the existing businesses that are here. So when we operated the Venetian Las Vegas, we were the leading destination for business meetings, right? So I'm sure the people in this room have attended trade shows in Las Vegas or conventions or meetings.
Sure.
Vegas was the #1 destination, but we competed with Orlando, Chicago, Los Angeles to some extent, a little bit smaller meetings, New York, but we were the leader, and we could do citywides, we could handle the concrete show. But everyone had to travel into Las Vegas. Imagine if you had the business infrastructure to host meetings here. Think about all the Fortune 500 companies that are here, all the travel that shows up at DFW, all the inbound tourism from Love Field. And think about the fact that all those people, when they want to have a meeting of more than 5,000 people, pretty much have to leave. There's not enough hotel.
Say that again, make sure everybody gets that.
So if you're a hotel operator, if you want to have a large tour group, if you want to bring in a plenary session of 10,000 people, if you're Amazon Web Services, there's only a few cities you can go to. One of them right now isn't really Dallas. The infrastructure
does not exist in Dallas, in spite of our efforts.
So in effect, Dallas has all the right factors to create an industry that will fundamentally alter the real estate environment through these investments. Because business tourism right here is challenged. I know because I used to compete against Dallas. I have the playbook of what to say for anyone that comes to us and says, I might go to Dallas. I'm aware of that playbook. But what's interesting is the other side of it is all the infrastructure is here. All the companies are here. The business environment, pro-business environment is here. And all the highly skilled labor is here. The workforce is here. The ability to construct, the people to work the jobs in hospitality are here. The industry is ready to be formed. It just needs to happen.
Unbelievable.
So if we can have destination resorts and put the sports teams next to it, that's where we're headed. So eventually our goal is to find a new home for the Mavericks, do something ground up, and fulfill this objective of creating this epicenter for North Texas for business and leisure tourism that can be leading and dominate. Because I think all the factors are here to really make it work.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
And so I heard you mention $12 billion, $10 billion, whatever. So just for context, all of Victory, including the arena, the office buildings, the hotel, the residential and the retail, is a total of $2.5 billion. So this is a scale and something that's really hard to get our head around, and we're real estate people.
Yeah.
So unbelievable investment. And so the Sands model would be perfect for something of that scale.
That's the idea. And we're self-financing. So this isn't something where we propose something and look to bring in other investors. So we take all the risk ourselves. We develop from the ground up. We master plan. And if there are people we want to be next to us, we can work out adjacencies. But that's the idea. And then we help SMEs develop a way to deal with us because we have very strict requirements, but also because we scale very quickly. So just to give you a sense, our facility in Singapore employs 14,000 people directly. And then we have a huge economic multiplier effect, and there's literally tens of thousands of people that work in order to service Marina Bay Sands because it's a 24/7 operation. And because it does business tourism and leisure tourism and has a host of other things going on in the building. That building was about $6 billion to construct, and we're working now with the Singapore government to finalize permission to start. We're going to break ground in July, if we get everything, for an $8 billion expansion, which includes a 15,000-seat live performance venue. So our goal is to invest in scale and create tourism benefits that drive economic growth and drive other real estate investment. And that's what the Singapore government wants us to do, and that's how we execute. And our goal is to do the same thing that we did in Vegas, the same thing we did in Singapore, and do it here.
Yeah. So I just got back from Singapore and was fortunate enough to stay at the Marina Bay Sands. And the magnitude of this is just hard to appreciate unless you're there. The other thing that we've talked about is the gaming within the Sands is really a very small percentage of your total investment there.
It is. Our entire gaming area is about 15,000 square meters. So
a few percent.
170,000 square feet.
Yeah, a few percent of your total.
It's tiny. It's a 9 million square foot facility. It's not meaningful to the overall size. Look, gaming tables look the same in a lot of places. It's the stuff around it that really matters, right? That's how you drive tourism. That's how you drive visitation. That's how you drive spending. Like anything else, if you invest in quality, respect the customer, provide great service, provide great execution, you'll do well. And that's generally the way we approach things.
Yeah. So for the people in this room, the real estate business is made up of short-term deals and long-term deals. You couldn't invest this kind of money and do these things if you were not a long-term holder of these assets. True?
True. Think of it like a power plant. Like this is like a 35-year IRR. Like this is a really long-term infrastructure asset, and you have to be able to model it very carefully because there are things that happen that you can never anticipate, like a pandemic. So you had
some
kind of messes with you a little bit, messes with your model a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is that we're very long-term investors, and we take risk, and we take risk in scale, and we're committed to our projects, and we invest in the community, and that's really how we think about things.
Yeah, and another just Dallas-Fort Worth note, because we're very proud of the activity in Dallas-Fort Worth, is if you look at the top 20 deals over the last 5 years, there are $200 and $300, $400 million deals. This is a really big deal, a really, really big deal.
So I think for those of you who are in hospitality, we don't follow brand standards from the flags that we have. So we operate the largest Four Seasons in the world. We have other flags that we're associated with. But for us, we design our own brand standards and our own service standards. And it's because we want something unique and something very specific to the type of customers that we bring in. We also do things that are specific to business travelers. And we think that's helpful as a form of differentiation. But from a hospitality side, and this is interesting, we run occupancy in the high 90s. Or sorry, let's call it mid 90s, depending on the time of year. Why? It's because on the weekends, we're filled with leisure travelers, and during the midweek, we're filled with business travelers. Now, our ADR fluctuates, and our RevPAR fluctuates a little bit, but the occupancy and the volume of visitation that we get drives the business. So during the pandemic, when we could travel, we went around to every major city and benchmarked every five-star hotel. So everything that was new, everything that was renovated, everything that was actually a little stale, we went to see it again to make sure we understood what the global market of five-star looked like. So it was nice for a lot of our team. They got to go to some pretty cool cities. But the net effect of this is we knew where we needed to design our hotels in order to lead the world in execution, right? So we designed to a higher standard, our services to a higher standard. We fixed a lot of things that we learned over the years, and we invest. We just spent $1.75 billion renovating a building that already existed.
Wow.
And the only reason we could do that is because of the location, and to be fair, the revenue that comes from the casino side.
Right.
Right. And the reason why it's so large is because we took 2,500 keys and turned them into 1,850. So we basically brought the key count down and made the rooms larger and added amenities. And in that market, it worked. That's not something that works in the US, right? That's not something I would ever advise anyone to do here, right? You have to know the market in which you operate to feel comfortable taking a risk like that. But in the U.S., particularly in a market where there's undersupply, like here in Dallas, you can do some really unbelievable things, particularly on the hospitality side. If you have the things to drive critical mass, then the returns will follow.
Unbelievable. So this room will also really appreciate the challenge of you've got a 2031 expiration of the arena lease, whatever you want to call it, in front of you. You're trying to do something really, really large. You got a number of different stakeholders. You got land issues, you got entitlement issues, you've got design issues, you've got cost issues. You got a lot to bring together in a pretty short amount of time.
It's a pretty normal day.
Yeah, for you maybe.
Pretty normal day.
Yeah, so I think that since we're all into being effective and everything, if you would just hurry up and move to Dallas, you would.
I don't make any decisions like that. You got to call my wife.
Okay, well.
Call the boss.
I'm a risk taker too. I might do that. But take us through, if you would, Patrick. A lot of discussion at the state level, obviously, and you have the two extremes, like you do on the Luka deal. You have the part of the extreme that says gambling, this is the worst thing I've ever heard about, and then you hear the other end of the extreme, which talks about the magnitude that we've already addressed, entertainment, convention. What happens? What are the next steps practically for those in the room that don't follow state politics, that don't understand constitutionally how this works? Can you even touch on that?
Sure. I think the first thing is a framework needs to be developed that allows for large-scale investment in a limited way that creates tourism assets. So what you don't want to do is create a framework that allows for gaming to spread everywhere and really just be a local tax, as opposed to something that drives tourism through investment. And so the way you do that is by limiting the number of licenses, having a minimum investment, and by keeping a license long-term so that you can invest over many cycles to grow and maintain the competitive nature of this asset, because Vegas is still there. Other parts of the country are still there as a tourism location. So you need to have a framework that allows for more investment over time. And so if you have a favorable gaming tax rate, one that's reasonable and allows for a fair return, but allows your investment to be protected, you have a limited number of licenses, so you don't get casinos everywhere, but you force a minimum investment, and then you protect that investment over time by having a long-term concession, you can create the conditions necessary to create long-term success for this new industry. And so the way this is progressing is through the Capitol. And so on the legislative side, actually, Garin just filed a joint resolution today, and the idea is to allow this to be put to the people.
It should be a people.
Right. Our goal is not to have anyone in this room decide, unless you're voting, right? Our goal is to actually put it to the people and say, what do the citizens of Dallas want? What do the citizens of Houston want? What do the citizens of Texas want? Do they want destination resorts in this framework or not? And the idea is put it to the people and let them vote on it. Yeah. And so that's all that we're asking. What we don't want to do, look, I live in Las Vegas. It's a great community, great people. But when I take my kids to Albertsons, I have to walk by slot machines. That's not what we want.
Right.
It's not what we want. What we want is when you go out and you go to dinner with your significant other and you have a bottle of wine, or you go to the store and you buy an expensive handbag, or you have an expensive suit, that's your decision. It's your disposable income, you decide. And maybe it's a form of entertainment. When you go to the casino floor, it's a form of entertainment, right? It shouldn't be something that's aggressive tax. It should just be a form of entertainment that allows people who enjoy casino gaming to do that just like any other leisure activity that they have in a controlled manner, in a regulated manner. And that will allow for all of these things to be invested in and grow over time. And that's really what we're proposing. So in Dallas, there would be 2 potential licenses. In Houston, there would be 2 potential licenses. But the minimum investment would be $2 billion. And so that you'd get something at scale that would grow over time and create both regional and, let's call it, across the U.S. tourism opportunities for people to show up and really experience it. But our focus is going to be investing a lot more, right? If you look at our track record, we've always invested and then continued to invest and build over time. because our buildings typically get full. And also, we learn about what our customers need, and we invest against those desires and that thesis. And we will develop things over time. So our largest development is in Macau. We put $17 billion in the ground over 20 years.
$17
billion. And it's about 35 million square feet.
Wow.
And so a little bit more. And the idea is that as the market evolves and as we learn more about the market, we capitalize on our existing success and our existing investment and invest more and grow more. And so we don't go everywhere. You know, you asked me how is it in Dallas versus other places I've been. I travel the world. Like you, I'm on an airplane a lot. And we go meet with a lot of governments, a lot of business leaders in different countries. And we always have the same discussion, which is how do we help grow tourism? Because that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants to grow tourism. But tourism is tied to culture, it's tied to cuisine, and it's tied to real estate. And so how do you develop the infrastructure necessary to create that tourism and that economic benefit that so many different countries and cities want? Right. And that's really what we explore. And I will tell you that having traveled the earth looking for different opportunities, that the one here in North Texas is unique. It really is.
That's what we want to hear. Yeah, that's what we want to hear. And taking the vote to the people is really critical. That's just logical, and so that's great to hear. So for those in the room that don't really know Patrick, you're getting a sense for Patrick. You're a reasonably intense guy. You've got your share of energy. He drinks no coffee. I don't get it. But so take us through. You got your really an international business. You've got family investments around the world. You've got this mission in Texas, which would be a full-time job for anybody. And so how do you think about what we all struggle with? How do you really focus on what you have to get done, prioritizing?
The great news is it's not just me. There's a great team at Las Vegas Sands. There's a great team at the Dallas Mavericks.
NBA, yeah, Mavericks.
Right? I'm very fortunate. I'm surrounded by great people who are all very, very smart and are great at what they do. And it's about teamwork, and that's how you get things done. Right? It's about a common vision, finding the goals necessary to complete that vision, and everyone working together. And if you can get that in terms of the culture around you, you can accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you also got a family.
I do.
So talk about, like, do you consciously or objectively put framework in place or time? And I mean, how do you get all this done?
So I call my 12-year-old daughter and I ask her what I should do.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me.
She's pretty much in control. Like, she's the one that tells the other kids, like, eat your vegetables, too much iPad, dessert time is over, whatever. And so she's like the boss of the house. She's in charge. So she's also a reasonable sounding board. And she'll also tell me that there are certain memes that I don't understand, and she'll try to explain them to me.
Perfect. And she'll tell you where things sound dumb to her, too, probably.
That is true.
Yeah, which is important for all of us to get.
It's also, my wife has younger brothers, and they're also very reasonable sounding boards as well. So I try to gather information from
You're a good listener. You're a really good listener. I think that's another great attribute. Yeah, no question about it. So also, and we touched on this, but if you'll just go a little bit deeper for us, because it's consistent with track and many people in the room, talk about philanthropy just for a minute. Your views, family views,
sure.
Importance of.
Beyond important, because you have to be able to support the community that supports you. And so actually Ron Reese is here, my colleague, and he runs our program for philanthropy out of Las Vegas Sands. That's one of the areas of responsibility that he has.
Wow. And
whenever we go into communities in which we operate, we try to do things that are meaningful and that will address the concerns of our team members, because they're in the community and they have things that they feel are important to them. As a family, we're very focused on medical research. We think that's public health is a big issue for everybody. And there are some diseases that don't necessarily receive the funding that they should,
right?
But they impact people's lives just the same. And there are also things that, because of the way basic research is structured, sometimes things that could produce breakthroughs are not necessarily funded. And so to allow very talented scientists to collaborate and give them funding and allow that basic research to be advanced could produce things that are beneficial to society. And my mother-in-law is a medical doctor. Her life started off as an ER physician. And so this is something that's near and dear to her heart. She also specializes in addiction medicine. So our family has a series of drug clinics where we treat people who are unfortunately bitten by the scourge of addiction. It's a very sad thing to see. And I'm sure it's something that people in the community are aware of. So I think for us, these things are very necessary. You have to do them.
Yeah, needle moving.
Yeah, and look, you do what you can to contribute, right? We're very fortunate, and so we can contribute these types of things, but everyone should try to do something. You know, one of the things that we do in Singapore is we build hygiene kits because there are a lot of people in the surrounding areas that don't have access to certain basic things necessary for health and safety. And so we try to provide these things to the local community. There's just a lot of things you can do, and you don't realize it, but you see it later. You realize that you can impact someone's life doing something in a very meaningful way, and you may never know about it, but sometimes it comes back to you, and you realize, you know what, that was a really good decision. This thing that I wasn't sure about, it was worth taking a risk to invest in this because you never know where it's going to go, but maybe the outcome really affects someone's life in a positive way. And I think that's really the motivating factor.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's great. So we have a couple minutes. If anybody, and we have microphones spread out across the room.
One thing, I'm a very direct person. Ask me anything you want.
Yeah, please.
Don't worry about it. I won't be offended.
Take them up on that.
If you want to throw lettuce and tomatoes, you can do that too.
Yeah. Questions in the room. Questions in the room. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Please.
So you touched on it some, but obviously I've lived in North Texas my whole life. One of the biggest arguments in favor of gambling from a financial perspective is what we're losing in tax revenue. In terms of posing with the legislature, have you talked about what we could be saving in terms of lowering property taxes and things like that to offset?
Yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Tax recapture is a very meaningful thing as part of this. If you're trying to look at the benefit to the Texas budget, it's billions of dollars every year. I mean, if you go to the east, you go to the north, and you look at those facilities that have gaming, all the license plates are from Texas. They are. So I think as a Texan, you should say, why are they doing that? Can't we do it bigger and better? Can't we do something that really is transformational using this revenue? Can't we drive investment through this opportunity as opposed to letting it go away? So you're absolutely right. It is about tax recapture, and that's one of the arguments. The great thing is it's already proven. It's not a hypothetical, right? You know it's there. Look at the buildings that are being built, right? It shows you what the potential is if you actually get it right. So it is an important consideration, and it's something that actually comes up a lot. The real thing is, where does the money go? You know, I think there's been a lot of debate in the Capitol about what to do with it. Property tax relief, public safety, better schools. You know, there's a lot of things being debated, but you're absolutely right.
Another question. I see someone standing, but
okay, yeah, the lights are bright here.
Yeah, I'm in the lights. Patrick, first of all, welcome to Dallas.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. You talked a little bit about the sensitivity of the Mavericks leaving for Las Vegas, but I wanted to get a little bit more granular and local. As you're considering these mega projects, I guess the arena and the Mavericks themselves are a relatively small component of it, but there is a sensitivity to the Mavericks being Dallas's team versus a suburbs team, and you know, with your land purchase off 114 and the river, you know, we know you have options there, but just what are your priorities? We have a new convention center on the way downtown, which will draw people. How do you prioritize your site selection if this goes forward?
So I appreciate the question. Thank you. The urban core is a model I believe in. So you may have heard earlier, I grew up in New York City. I think, you know, there are certain features in New York City that are very unique. And I think having a basketball team in an urban core is really cool. And if you look at Madison Square Garden, where I used to dream of going into. You know, when I was growing up, it was really hard to get a ticket.
You didn't own a basketball team when you were a kid?
No. I didn't even own a basketball. We used to just go to the park. But the idea is that I believe in the urban core. And I think the city of Dallas has a lot of opportunities to do things in that area that could be really constructive. And so with the convention center, with some of the investments that are going on there, with some of the, let's call it the access changes that are possible, there's real potential to develop things there. And that's one of the things that we're going to look at. We're going to have conversations about it, and we actually have started. So my goal would be to be able to figure it out with the city of Dallas. If that doesn't work, we have other options. There's always other options, but I'm going to start there.
Great, great. So just in the interest of time, Patrick, thank you. I would tell you that I'm really glad that you're in Dallas. I think this real estate community is especially glad that you're in Dallas. And it won't be long before the entire Mavericks fan base is really glad you're in Dallas too.
Very
so
kind.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.